In a past video, I showed you how to set up all of your tools off of a tool setter on the machine, so that way all of the tool lengths are referenced off of the spindle nose. Now I'm going to use that same spindle nose to set my offset for my part. I'm going to be making use of a 1, 2, 3 block sitting on top of my part to do this. Of course, you could use any known reference height or anything like that. The first thing I need to do is a tool change to get to a blank pod. In this case, tool number 1 doesn't have anything in it, so I can get down to the spindle nose quite easily. So there's a couple of ways to do that. The one I'm going to choose right now is just to jog my X out of the way. And I'm going to go to MDI and type in tool 1, M6. The other way I could have done this, because this is a Fanuc robo drill, is insert and cycle start. I could have also just used the tool change button to increment 1 pod. All right, great. So what I need to do is bring the spindle nose down a known amount right on top of this 1, 2, 3 block. We're just going to get it close here. And let's bring that X over just a little bit. Great. I'm going to get the Z just a little closer. Now, if you had something that you needed to be very accurate on, you could use shim stock. I, however, do not, so I'm just going to use a piece of paper. All right, standard piece of paper. This measures out with my calipers at right around 3 thou thick, and especially since I'm not doing anything super exact here, this should be more than accurate enough. So what I need to do now is I'm going to wiggle the paper while I slowly jog that Z down until it's making contact. Now I'm going to be hampered, of course, because I'm trying to hold the phone while doing this. So I'm going to pause the video and show you where it ends up. There we go. Now, all I did was just wiggle the paper back and forth while jogging the Z down with my other hand until it just started to snag. So what I need to do now over on the main control, let's go back to my settings page. I'm already in my offsets, but if you weren't, you'd go to your work offset. I'm setting up G54. So what I want to tell this thing right now is that I want my Z0 to be 20 thou below the top of the stock. So I'm going to go mill down what I need to on the top here. So I know that I'm at 3 inches above plus 3 thou. So that's obviously 3.003. However, I want to go another 20 thou down. So there's a little bit of math here. So where I'm going to is 0.323. So I added up the 3 thou, the 3 inches, and the 20 thou that I want to go down. So we're going to take the Z position, and I'm going to tell it that right now I am 3.023. So I'm 3 inches above from the 1, 2, 3 block. I'm 20 inches above from the material itself, and then I'm 3 thou because of the paper. And now when I do that, I can press this measure button right there. All right, great. Now, if you load any tool, we can send it to the top of stock, but sending it to Z0 will be 20 thou below where that material is. Let's try it. I'm going to start by jogging the Z up to remove my paper. Okay, let me set this block aside. All right, so now let's grab another tool. Let's see here, I'm just going to jog this out of the way, and maybe we can use tool number 5. So MDI, program mode, T5M6, insert that. All right, so we got our tool 5 in there. And what I'm going to do is command this thing to go to a 1/4 inch above in Z0. Now, we're already in G54, but if you weren't, you could type that in. It won't hurt anything. G54. And then where do I want it to go? I want it to go to X0. In a Fanuc, it's always important to type X0 dot, or else it'll go just an incremental amount. Y0 dot and end of line. So I'm just going to hit insert here. Now this is going to cause my machine to move in the X and Y axis. Whoops. And I didn't put it into G1 rapid mode, so we're moving pretty slowly here. There we go, after forgetting to put it into G0 mode. So what I could do here is I'm going to leave it in feed rate mode so it moves down, but I am going to increase it. So let's do a G1 to put it into feed rate mode. I'm going to do a G43, which calls up my height offset. In this case, I want height number 5. So because I don't have the full keyboard, I have to hit this little plus over here. Plus H5 for my height 5. And then I want to tell it to go to Z.25. So I'm going to go 1/4 inch above it. At what feed rate? I'm going to go 50 inches a minute. So I'm going to put a 50 dot. There we go. End of line. Insert. I'm going to turn my feed rate knob down so I have control over it and hit cycle start. Let's see where it goes here. Now while this is going, I'm going to slow this down for just a second so you can watch along with me. I'm watching up on my display here. I'm watching my distance to go. If you haven't used this before, it's really handy. If you don't have this up on an old Fanuc, when you're on a MDI screen, you have your choice between displaying the relative or the absolute position, or you could view them all. So that's all I did, was just go to all there. So now I'm going to increase that feed rate. And again, as it goes here, I'm watching that number go down. All right, I'm going to slow it down here. It says I have another 1/4 inch or so to go, which I would agree with. All right, and that's it. That's where we're going. So right now, we should be about 20 thou lower than 1/4 inch. And I would say that's correct. Unfortunately, I don't really have a great way to gauge that. So why don't we use our 1, 2, 3 block to check? So being a 1/4 inch away from the top of the material doesn't actually help me because I don't have a great way to measure that. If I had a 1/4 inch gauge block or something I could slide under it, that would be somewhat useful. But again, I set it to 20 thou below my surface. So what I'm going to do, so we're still in G54 mode, we're still in a feed rate of 50 mode. So I can just tell it to go to Z1.02 for the 20 thou I took off, and then 3, so that way hopefully we can slip a piece of paper in there. End of block, insert, and I'm going to hit cycle start. And this thing's going to move upwards, you can see there, just a little more than 1 inch. So now, if I grab my piece of paper, we should be able to slip this block under. So you can see here, my block fits easily under it, no dragging at all, and my paper will just barely catch at the edge, which is exactly what I wanted to see. So that tells me that my work offset is set correctly.